Chryso friends, welcome back to Opus Elenae, where we never, ever, ever take on more than we can deliver. Ever. Well, it's been a minute, hasn't it? So I'm in Boston, isn't it pretty? No, it's not, because it's windy and the audio that I got was awful. So you get a hotel wall instead, but I promise I'm getting some gorgeous video that I will do something with. This video took way longer than I expected to spend on it, both because the construction took more time than I planned and because my life has had a few speed bumps in the past month or so. You may remember that I started off the ridiculous German clothing series with my headwear in this video, and if you don't, go give it a watch too. In it, I said that the next projects were going to be smocked shirts or hems for partner and I. What could be more foolhardy than deciding to make one smocked German Renaissance shirt in the 3 weeks that I had planned when I've never made one before? That is right, making two. Hems are constructed differently from a lot of the other shirts I've made on this channel. English Renaissance shirts are generally made from a rectangular front and back, and rectangular sleeves that form an armscye and shoulder seam, and separate collar and cuff pieces. German hems, on the other hand, are made with gathered and smocked collar and cuffs that are integrated into the body and sleeves, resulting in a more raglan seam situation, which seems totally easy, and I'm sure that I won't mess any of that up. Everyone, go grab your cuppa. Today I am having a maple chai latte from Tradesman Coffee Shop. It is super good and I highly recommend it if you happen to find yourself in the financial district. I am drinking it out of my Boston Tea Party mug, the one souvenir that I felt contractually obligated to purchase. Let's get into it. In addition to these hems, partner and I both need new underthings, shirts for him and smocks for me. So we went in on a whole bolt of fabric that will work for everything. There's nothing quite like the metaphorical smell of new fabric. Before I dive into hem construction headfirst, I'll need to do a test swatch, both to test out the smocking designs and to see what the before to after ratio of my pleating machine is. This means cutting a strip of fabric, threading up the pleater, and running it through after marking every 5 inches. Turns out that ratio is just about 5:1, although I can finagle it a little bit in either direction. After securing the pleats, I'll test different smocking patterns and techniques with different threads to see what combination gives me the look that I want. I ended up using DMC cotton floche held double. It's not the 6-ply floss, it's a non-divisible thread with no visible plies, unlike pearl cotton. Starting off not only a new project, but a new kind of project means figuring out the sizes of all of the pieces and then making a cutting diagram to plan how much fabric I'll need. The pleating swatch allowed me to work backwards from the desired collar measurement to the full amount of fabric to be pleated down. That gave me the widths of each piece. Not pictured, me meticulously taking all of the length measurements from partner's favorite Elizabethan shirt and using them to calculate how long each piece with integrated collar needs to be. Incorrectly. Well, that'll be a problem eventually. Now that I have a plan backed by data that's only a little bit wrong, I can measure out how much fabric I'll need for each hem, cut that length off, and serge the edges prior to washing. Now for the step that literally changed my life. My friend Anne is a German costumer and does the most exquisite pleat work I've ever seen. I'll put the link to her blog in the description and you should check it out because it's amazing. I was talking with her at an event about my plans to make these hems and my frustration with the pleater being all wobbly when I tried to use it on bigger pieces of fabric. And then she looked at me square in the eye like I was being ridiculous and was like, just starch it. And when my brain was finished exploding, I went to her blog post on starching linen for use in pleat work and proceeded to do just that. Since I'm starching 2 shirts worth of fabric, I'm breaking out my big stock pot and working outside for more overhead clearance than my stove has. While I wait and wait and wait for the water to boil, I always forget how long it takes to heat that much water up. I'm going to make my starch slurry. I got some arrowroot starch because it was both accessible and inexpensive, but in period, they'd have used wheat or cuckoo root. I'm going for a medium level of stiffness, so I'll need about 1/3 of a cup of starch per gallon of water. Ish. I definitely forgot to measure the water. After I added the starch, making sure there were no clumps, I added all of the fabric and mixed everything thoroughly. I want to make sure that the starch reaches all parts of the cloth. Then I will turn off the heat and let everything cool down slowly, stirring occasionally. Turns out that my drying rack is just tall enough to dry 2 lengths of linen fabric, which is convenient. I'll let that dry outside overnight because I don't feel like dripping starch all over my floor. Like all washed fabric, this linen will need a good ironing before I work with it. It's funny how crisp and papery it feels compared with the spray starch I usually do before cutting. I'm using high heat and steam, and the fabric presses so beautifully flat. I'm going to draw threads for straight edges while cutting all of the pieces out. Next up, pleating. I'm leaning again on Anne's advice and starting out by taping each piece to a dowel longer than the fabric and rolling it up tightly. This will make even feeding into the pleater a lot easier. I'm pleating each piece, front, back, and both sleeves separately because it's a lot easier to control one piece of fabric at a time, and also because the pleater does not like seams. The dowel goes through the loops in the pleater. I'm using a box to prop up the other end, and the fabric goes through the rollers, and then I'm ready for the next step. I need to join all of the pieces together, so I'll pull out enough pleating threads to leave space for a seam, and then sew the first 3 or 4 inches of those seams by hand. It's easier than trying to finagle everything through a machine. At this point, I'll also find the center point of the front and cut a slit there, also leaving enough de-threaded fabric on either side for a rolled hem. Next step, hemming the top ruffle and the front slit. It's easier to deal with this finishing now rather than wait until the end after it's all been gathered. I'm doing a simple and tiny rolled hem all the way around with a thread bar at the bottom of the slit for reinforcement. After the shirt is joined together, I'll pull the threads of each section tight, gathering the collar down to the desired measurement before tying them off. In order to secure the pleats in place, I'm going to run a line of back stitching on the inside of the collar along each gathering thread. That way, I don't have to worry about the gathering threads slipping or the measurements changing while I smock. I'll also fill the seams at this point too, keeping them as small as I can so as not to interfere with the gathering. Now for the fun part. I'll start the smocking with 2 straight lines at the top and bottom of the pleating to make a border. Then I'll sketch in the motifs I settled on, making sure that that design is symmetrical. After all of the smocking is done, I'll finish the collar by whip stitching a strip of linen on the inside. This will protect the back of the work, provide a more solid base for closures later, and be replaceable after too much wear. Thank you to all of my current and continuing Ko-fi members. Your support means so much to me and allows me to make more projects like this for everyone, member or not. Thank you all so much. Stick around after this brief commercial break to see me put the shirt together. Time to sew up the rest of the shirt. Because everything is integrated, the 4 seams joining the body and sleeves end up being raglan shaped. That is, they sit diagonally from collar to armpit, with the square underarm gusset bridging the gap between front and back seams. So I'm taking the measurement from neck to armpit against the body and using that as the length of the raglan seam. Then I can insert the underarm gusset as usual, which will add ease under the arms, and sew down the length of the body and the sleeves. Now I have something shirt-shaped and not long enough in the sleeves. I definitely calculated that measurement wrong and need to add fabric to correct it. After doing that, I'll mark out the design for the cuff closures. There isn't enough fabric in the sleeves to pleat them in the same way as the collar, but I want something at least in the same genre, so I've settled on honeycomb smocking, like on my apron. This kind of smocking is remarkably forgiving, stretching or compressing to the correct measurement. Before gathering the cuffs though, I'll hem everything and fell the seam on the lower arm. There's no way to hide the adjustment, so I'll decorate it with a herringbone stitch. If it can't be invisible, at least it can be pretty. Then I can do the cuff smocking. It's pretty straightforward and very striking. Once that's done, I'll finish the inside of the cuffs the same way that I did the collar. Not only does it perform the same functions, but it also prevents the honeycomb smocking from stretching out while wearing. The only thing left to do is to add the closures. I went with hooks and eyes on the collar where I want something precise and invisible, and with button and loop on the cuff at partner's request. It's the easiest thing to fasten one-handed while dressing alone. And where is my HEMD, you may ask? Thanks for joining me today, and thank you all so much for your patience with my erratic update schedule lately. I'm hoping it'll even out by the end of the year, but in the meantime, you can check out the first video in my German Renaissance series. And now, I'm off to Salem. Until next time, be kind, do the work, continue supporting marginalized people, and keep creating. Will.